Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Dux Soup webinar, Dux Soup Turbo and HubSpot, easy LinkedIn lead gen for your CRM. Giles Garnett, the head of professional services, will be presenting this webinar. Live chat is monitored by Jen, the head of customer support, and at the end of the webinar, we will have Q&A with Giles. Thank you for joining us today, and let's start our webinar.
Thank you, Jin, for the introduction, and hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone joining today's Dux Soup webinar, wherever you may be in the world. Firstly, for anyone who's new to the Dux Soup webinars, my name is Giles Garnett, and I'm Head of Professional Services here at Dux Soup. And if you book any calls with Dux Soup, it's likely you'll be speaking with myself as I run both the technical and booster calls, as well as some of the support calls. And as you can hear, I present the fortnightly webinars for Dux Soup as well, apart from when we have guest speakers. Today, we are delighted to be able to present our most recently added new feature, our direct HubSpot integration. The information on today's webinar is very much focused on Turbo product, which is required to be able to use this feature. While I'm talking and presenting, Jin, our head of customer support at Dux Soup, who you just heard from, will be doing her best to answer all your questions on the chat. So as always, please do try to keep the questions on topic so that they are useful for the entire audience. You can always visit the Dux Soup support pages and use the live chat function there if you have other questions relating to Dux Soup. As always, because I know this question comes up every time, the webinar today will be recorded and available to everybody who's registered. You'll get a direct link if you registered, but it will also be made available in the coming days via our website and our YouTube channel, alongside all of our previous content. As usual, I'm going to start with a few slides and then do some on-screen demonstration to hopefully get you started with this new feature. So I'm going to cover a very brief Dux Soup introduction for anybody who's new. Then I'm going to talk about the HubSpot integration, and then towards the end, we'll just touch on a new Dux Soup Tricks widget, which is also a feature which is available for all Turbo users and helps you to enroll people in campaigns. Very quickly, as many of you will have noticed, both from my slides here and hopefully from the emails that we've been sending out, we have a new Dux Soup brand, and our Dux is now flying, and we hope you like it. So, very briefly, on with the topic for today. We'll do the Dux Soup introduction first, sorry. So Dux Soup, as most of you will already know, is a Chrome extension, which when used in conjunction with LinkedIn can assist you with the following. You can automate your LinkedIn lead generation activities. You can auto invite with personalized messages. You can search, filter, and target with tags. You can auto message first degree connections, and you can download your data. With Turbo as well, you can send automated follow-up messages, track your funnel, track your stats through the funnel flow, and integrations with other systems. If I just touch on those very briefly here, with Turbo, you get the automated follow-ups and enrollment into campaigns. You have the funnel flow stats, you have your queued activity. You can connect with your CRM, as we're going to demonstrate in a minute with HubSpot. And you can also use webhook functionality for further integration with other systems. Right, so Dux Soup and HubSpot. As many of you are aware, last year we released our first direct CRM integration with Pipedrive, which was very well received. And then based upon customer demand, we built the HubSpot integration next. And depending on feedback from the customers, as always, based upon your demand, we will be doing more in the pipeline. Please do have a look at our feature upvote page, which I'll show you the link of later, if there's any other CRMs that you wish to request to be integrated. Now, HubSpot is a CRM which has in excess of 100,000 paying users and has been around for nearly 15 years. So it's a very well-established platform. And that's one of the reasons we decided to go for it. And using the Dux Soup integration, you can do a number of things in line with our other integrations. What I'm going to talk you through is how to install it, how to set it up, and then how to carry out all those other bits and pieces as we go. So let's show you the integration. If I just drag my other, there we go. So first of all, let's go to LinkedIn. Now, as always, I say this is me here in LinkedIn. If I just click on my page here, Feel free to connect with me. I'm open to people wanting to connect with me on LinkedIn. Do send me a message that you're connecting via, or you're a user of Dux-Soup. Always happy to engage with users and listen to your feedback as well. So yeah, do feel free to send me a connection request if you would like. Right, so this is LinkedIn, and in order to get to install my integration with HubSpot, I need to go to my Dux dash. Hopefully most of you are familiar with this. If you click on your Dux-Soup icon in the top right-hand corner, and then go down to the bottom right-hand corner, you have the Dux dash. And if I open the Dux dash, that brings you to this page here where you can see all of our lovely new branding as well, all the new color schemes. And over on the left-hand side, you'll see various options down here. And on the left-hand side at the bottom, towards the bottom here, you'll see the CRM connections. If I click on my CRM connections button, you can now see, as well as the Pipedrive account, we now have the option to add a HubSpot account. And this is the step that you go through to install the connection between the two systems. Now, I'm already logged into my HubSpot account up here, as you can see at the top of my screen. If I now press Add HubSpot account, it will then say, okay, which HubSpot account do you wish to connect to? Well, this is the one I want to connect to, the one that I'm logged into. I'll choose that account, and then it will confirm. And there we go. I am now, I've now installed my HubSpot integration with Dux-Soup. I've linked the two together so that everything will talk to each other. And as you can see here, we have a number of different options. I'm going to uncheck those for a second, just so I can talk through all of the options here. At the moment, I've not enabled it. So at the moment, it's dormant. There's nothing happening there. But we now have a few options that we can choose based upon what activities we would like to appear or what data we would like to appear within our CRM. So the most obvious one is you want to create and update contacts, and you can choose which level of contacts you want to appear in your CRM. So you can choose to turn it off, of course. You can choose to create and update contacts from connected profiles, in which case only first-degree connections will then appear in your CRM. You can create and update contacts from tagged profiles. So based upon your Dux-Soup tags, you can also say then, yeah, I'm only interested in ones who I've tagged. You can also create and update contacts within HubSpot based upon all profile views. So first, second, third degree connections, all of those contacts will then appear within your CRM. This is a slight adaptation to the original functionality we released with Pipedrive, and the Pipedrive functionality has been updated according to this as well, so you have the same options within there. Now, of course, you only get to see email addresses, you only get to see full contact details from directly connected connections within LinkedIn, so first degree connections. So a lot of people will probably only want to look at people who they're connected to. There are some people who would also like to have second and third degree connections added. So we'll leave it there for connected profiles at the moment. You also have the opportunity here to create timeline events for LinkedIn messages. So that would then show your message exchanges from LinkedIn within your CRM, within the HubSpot environment, as timeline events against that particular contact. You can also choose to update a contact after connecting. And what happens there is that Dux-Soup listens out for people who have become first degree connections, queues up and auto visits their profile. That first degree profile visit occurs, and then that data, depending on what option you've got here, would then appear within your CRM environment. Now, there's a few things to note as well, because we've now installed this extension or this connector between the two systems. If we now go to HubSpot, what's happened is that we've actually created some new fields within HubSpot to enable this integration to occur and to be successful. And if I go to my contacts here within HubSpot, please excuse the background noise, I think there's some building going on. If I now go to my contacts here within HubSpot, and if I click on one of my connections here, there we go, let's open this connection here. You'll notice here that this is the default view of a connection. Now, there's a few things that you'll notice here that are different. If we go up to filter by activity here, what we see over on the right hand side is we now have the integration with Dux Soup, where we can then enable the visibility of our messages. And if I enable that one there, we'll notice then that I've got my messages that I've exchanged with this person here within my CRM. And if I click on there, you can see the message that we exchanged within LinkedIn. You can also go directly to that conversation. The URL for that conversation is also accessible there, so you are able to see exactly when the messages were. This is when the messages came into the system. But if you look here, we can see exactly what the conversation is and go directly to it. So that, if I just show you that again, under the activity, you have to enable this integration here, the Dux Soup integration, in order to be able to see those activities in your timeline. Now, to show you as well the custom fields that have been created, if I go up to my actions up the top here and I show all the properties against this particular profile, if I scroll down this list here, we should see some LinkedIn related properties. So all of these items here, so LinkedIn degree, LinkedIn ID, industry, location, profile, and title, they have all been created as part of the integration with Dux Soup. And what you can do is you can add these items to your view. So you can then say, yep, I want to be able to see these items in my default view. So if I do that, for example, I'm going to go back. On the left-hand side, we can now see, there we go, I can see all of those items there showing here, the items that I've chosen there showing here. So I can see exactly what data is there, what degree of connection this person is, what their ID, LinkedIn ID is, and the fact that I've got the URL of their profile. And the URL of their profile is of particular importance because that is required in order to be able to do some of the other activities that you can carry out from within HubSpot. So, for example, over here on the right-hand side where I've got this drop-down box here, the LinkedIn one, this is part of the Dux Soup integration as well. I can now send a message to this individual in LinkedIn from within HubSpot. And I can also use exactly the same markers as I would do in the standard messaging within Dux Soup. And this would then be queued up via the remote control and be sent on my behalf. So yeah, you can send a direct message from there. You can update HubSpot, and that would basically just trigger an auto view to that profile. You can also send connection requests to people from within HubSpot as well. So all of these options are very similar to the options that you have within Pipedrive. Terminology is slightly different because of the different system, Pipedrive and HubSpot. They are similar, but they are different. And as I say, the terminology, the explanations used are slightly different. So that's very basically the view of how it looks within HubSpot. If I just now, I've got some people here already, what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry out some auto visits to some other first degree connections, and we should then see some people get populated in here accordingly, just so we can show that actually in action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create and update contacts from connected profiles. I'm going to enable that. I'm not going to do the messages for now. What I'm going to do is I'm then going to just carry out some auto views to some first degree profiles. So let's go to Sales Navigator and do it from there. Let's have a look. Here we go. Let's just get my first degree connections from Sales Navigator. And then let's go part way down this list rather than running it from the top as I usually do. I don't know, let's go to page 55. There we go. So here we are. We've now got some people here who I want to put into my CRM. Now what I need to do is I need to go and check all of my Dux Soup options as usual. So let's go to my options, and I'm not going to send any connection requests. Well, they're first degrees already, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to turn that one off. I'm not going to skip any profiles, and make sure that we're active. Yeah, we're all active and good to go. So let's carry out some auto views of some some first degree connections. There we go. We'll just do some visit profiles, and what we should see then is just getting some of these individuals here into my CRM. We should see those brought across accordingly. As you can see, yeah, I'm doing this fairly quickly for demo purposes. I wouldn't normally run the robot this quickly for any length of time, but just here to enable so we can see some data come across. So you can see already it's visited the person at the top of the list here. So we should hopefully now, if I go back to my contacts, I've sorted this by create date. So hopefully if I now refresh this page, there we go, we can start to see some of those people appearing within my CRM. And very simply, we can bring in as many of our first degree connections just by carrying out an auto visit to them in this way. Be a very quick activity to bring all of these people across. So yeah, hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory there. Now, of course, remember that the messages are only going to appear in the CRM for the people who exist within your CRM. So if those people aren't in the CRM already and there's no data against them to be able to link them to the message, then that data will not come across. So it's important that you have the data, the LinkedIn information within your CRM so that you can capture as many of those conversations as possible. So there we are. While I've been talking, we've visited a few profiles there. Let's stop the robot and refresh this page. There we go, and we can now see that there's a number of people here who have been brought across, and yeah, their data here is reflected. If I just click on one of them, we can then see on the bottom, in the bottom left-hand side here, the various LinkedIn fields that have been brought across. So that there is how you can start to populate and complement the data that's within your CRM in a really efficient way. And you can say enable, disable, and choose which options that you want to have enabled at any one time. It's also very easy to disconnect. If you want to uninstall the plugin, you can just use this button here to remove that connection and do that way. Very, very intuitive, very straightforward. We've learned a lot from the pipe drive integration that we did last year, and hopefully we've refined things and listened to you, the users, to make things as useful and as user-friendly as possible. So I'm now going to move on to where have my slides gone? There we go. The tricks widget. So this is something that we launched a couple of weeks ago, and it's available to all Turbo users. And this is where you can enroll people into your chosen campaign. It's a Turbo feature. It's a pop-up widget on both profile pages and search results. And the key thing here is to ensure you have defined a campaign within the Dux Dash. If you're not sure what I'm talking about when I talk about the campaigns and everything, have a look back at the multiple drip campaign webinar from a month ago, or 5-6 weeks ago, I think it was. Have a look back at that as to how to define a campaign. But if I now very quickly show you how this works. So if we again within our Dux Dash, if we go over to the left-hand side, you'll see here we've got drip campaigns, and this is where you define the campaign that you want to enable. We go to the end here. I've got one here that I've created earlier today to show you. So I've got here a campaign which has got a connection request. It's got a follow-up after 6 hours and another one after 6 days. Now the nice thing about this is you can now enroll first degree connections into a campaign as well. Of course, first degree would not receive the connection request, but the follow-up messages would be queued to those first degree connections. And the easiest way to enroll people, well, there's a couple of things that you need to do first. So we've now we've chosen this webinar demo campaign that we want to run. We then need to go to our Dux Soup options and make sure from our drop down here under our automated follow-up messages, you'd need to enable your automated follow-up messages here. You choose your desired campaign from your list here. Yeah, there we go. And you apply it. you apply that campaign, make sure that's enabled here as well. I won't enable that for now because I'm not wanting to send out a whole load of things. Actually, I'll tell you what we can do. We'll turn these off, because then I can show you actually enrolling things, how that looks. So I've chosen my connection request, and I've got here my webinar, sorry, my chosen campaign selected. If I now go to a search results within, well, it could be within standard LinkedIn or within Sales Navigator, and if I refresh this page, just wait for this to load up. You'll notice on the right hand side, the little widget here on the right hand side has changed from how it used to be. And you can see here now, this is the widget. You can now enroll people into your chosen campaign. Now, some of these people have already been enrolled into a campaign, so I can't enroll them into something else at the moment. But you can see here, for example, these top 3 here, I could enroll these into my chosen campaign. If as I scroll down, you'll notice that there are more people here that I could also enroll. And what I can do here is I can also, for example, choose somebody on this list. I don't know. Let's find somebody who's not enrolled in anything. There we go, this guy here. I can also go to an individual's page, and you'll notice here on the right hand side as well, I'll also get the enrollment option. And you'll see here that because I've got that chosen campaign, the webinar demo campaign, that is the campaign that I will enroll that person in. And I can now check to see what I've queued up there by going to my queued activity. If I go here, you can see now all of these people here have been enrolled into that campaign. Now, this of course goes to their Sales Navigator URL. If I did this within standard LinkedIn, you would also then see their standard URL here. So you can see then for these people, 6 hours from now, they are queued up to get, there's 4 people there who are queued up to get my first message. And then in 6 days time, as per my campaign, they are queued up to get my second message as well. Of course, if I want to remove those items from my queue, I can just select them from here and remove them. And that way I can take them out of a campaign. You can see which campaign ID I've applied to them. But there we are. I can now remove those people from that campaign as well. So that way you can use the tricks widget to enroll people in a campaign, and that can be 1st degree, 2nd degree, or 3rd degree connections. If I very quickly go to a search here, if I look for, let's look for operations manager in people, just for the heck of it. There we go. Let's just make it a slightly more realistic result rather than having 20 million people. That's still 328,000. If we wait for a second, we'll see in a minute on the right hand side the tricks widget pop up, and I can now just flick through this list and enroll all of these people into that campaign. That would queue up, in this case, my invite message, and then of course have them enrolled in those into that campaign for the future. And that way we have then complete control over who we're reaching out to. So yeah, that's the tricks widget, which is was launched about 2 weeks ago, and is something that I've been asked about quite a lot over the last few days. So I was like, I must mention that while we're here. So if we now go back to our Dux Dash, just to complete the circle, if you're enrolling people into a campaign, you can go to your funnel flow, of course, here. And if we just take, I don't know, that one as an example, if I look to see who I've enrolled, no, maybe that's not the one to use. Let's try that one. Let's find one that's got some useful data. There we go. So here we can see I've enrolled 16 people into this campaign. I've actually invited 11 because I withdrew some invites, and then 8 of them have accepted. And so here within your funnel flow, you can see exactly who you've enrolled, who you've invited, and who's accepted. And it could be that you've enrolled more people than you've invited, because you'll be enrolling maybe some people who are already 1st degree connections. So that way you can start to build up the picture there as well. And you can also, of course, see, if you click on each of these cells, you can see who's accepted and what their messages are in response to your campaign message. So let's just tidy up once again. Here's your CRM connection. You can add your HubSpot account here. That will enable that connection to your chosen HubSpot account. Within HubSpot, within your contacts, it creates the contact accordingly. It also will, where possible, add the associated company, and HubSpot will automatically try to complement that data by looking at the domain names and pulling up the appropriate logos, as you can see here, based upon the domain names of the people that you're connected with or that you're putting within your CRM. The data relating to each of these people, so use that one again, is visible here within the contact details under the LinkedIn items, and you filter your activity. You make sure you enable this Dux Soup integration here to make sure that you can see your discussions, your conversations in the timeline, in the activity timeline there. And finally, sending messages, sending connection requests, or indeed just triggering an auto visit to a profile to update their details can be triggered here from within HubSpot. Let's remove that one. A couple of other things. In 2 weeks' time, we have a previous guest speaker, Tyron, who's been with us before, a couple of times last year, I think. He's going to be presenting for us how to create a one-to-many selling system to accelerate business growth, looking very much at franchise models and how to maximize how to improve and make as efficient as possible your approach towards handling those sorts of scenarios. I must mention our booster and technical calls. You can book these via the website or indeed contact the support team for the details. The booster sessions are really how to get you up and running if you're starting from scratch with Dux Soup. Technical sessions are more how to do the more in-depth technical activities, maybe setting up HubSpot or Pipedrive, or maybe an integration using Integromat or Zapier. They will usually be with myself, so yeah, be very pleased to speak to anybody who needs help with these sessions. I mentioned this just now, some various useful links. The one that's worth looking at is this, particularly worth looking at is this one, the feedback.dux-soup.com. That's our suggestions page. If you go to that page there, you will be able to find all of the user suggestions. You can vote, you can upvote suggestions, you can comment on suggestions, you can even add your own. There's a huge number of suggestions on there that's worth having a look through. Quite a lot relating to different CRMs that I've seen mentioned over the last few months. But yes, some other features as well, which people are requesting. So it's a very interesting place to go and have a little bit of a trawl through to see if what we're providing, and we review it on a regular basis and try to give feedback where appropriate as well. So that's the end of me speaking for now, until Jin maybe gives me some questions.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, not a lot. One user was asking, will Dux Soup transfer in-mails to HubSpot CRM?
Let me just, must admit, I would need to double check this, but I believe it does, because in-mails appear within your inbox within, as long as they appear here within your mailbox within Sales Navigator, then yes. And I believe that they do. Is that correct, Jin? You may be able to confirm that.
I am not sure either, but I think they should transfer.
I believe they should, because I believe you see them as coming as in all messages here as unread, and I believe that it does pick up in mails as they come in as well. Yes, I will double check that. So whoever asked the question, yes, sorry that it's not an 100% clear answer there. I'm pretty sure it does, but I will test it and we can feedback accordingly in due course, hopefully.
Thank you. Another question would be, what would be the best way to import, let's say, 5,000 first-degree connections in HubSpot to HubSpot?
The best way to import 5,000 first-degree connections into HubSpot. Wow. Okay. Ideally, in order to get as much data as possible, there are a couple of different ways to do it. I think in order to get as much data as possible, the best thing to do would be to auto view, to carry out auto visits to those people, because then you're capturing as much data as possible. There are other options, as long as you've got the integration enabled. Let me just pull up my screen again. As long as you've got the integration enabled, if we just go to here, let's just have a look at, for example, if I look at my first degree connections here. Now, what you could do, because of course you only get to see 2,500 people in any one list within, if you're using Sales Navigator, 2,500. If you're using standard LinkedIn, you only get 1,000. So you'd probably need to break down your list into sort of maybe geographical chunks. Maybe that would be a good way to do that, to say, right, I want to break it down into by country. So you're actually, creating a list of maybe, I don't know, 1,000 at a time, or maybe fewer. Now, one thing you could do is just literally carry out an auto view to every profile. If you've got a paid for Sales Navigator account, you can be viewing several hundred profiles a day and just get Dux-Soup to carry out those auto views, and all of that data would get pushed into Sales Navigator, would get pushed into HubSpot as long as you've got everything enabled. You could also, I guess, theoretically scan your entire list of first degree connections. So rather than carrying out a visit, you could scan them all, which is much quicker, but you get much more, you get limited information from that, and then do a CSV import into your HubSpot account. That may be quicker, but you would also then have more limited data. You wouldn't have the same extensive amount of data. You'd still get the URL, you'd still get the ID, which are the two important ones to be able to carry out future visits. But I think, 5,000 connections, if you can do 300, 400, 500 views per day, in a couple of weeks, you should, you're going to be having most of your data in your CRM, just carrying out auto views to them. The important thing to remember when you're doing that is to make sure in your skipping rules, for example, if you've got first degree connections who haven't got a profile photo, make sure that you turn that off and make sure that's enabled. Also, in your history skipper, say never skip any profiles, because if you've manually viewed any profiles in the meantime, the robot will skip them. And then also untick the excluded blacklisted profiles, because if those profiles, any of those profiles have been blacklisted, then it would skip it. So yeah, I think I would probably look at, on a nightly basis, setting off for a couple of hours to visit a few hundred and have them imported that way, because then I know I've got as complete a data set as possible. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time, but I think that would be the best way to do it.
Thank you. I'm having a look at other questions, so give me 2 seconds, please.
No problems at all. As I said, the webinar coming up in, let's try and go, can I go back? Yeah, the webinar coming up in 2 weeks' time is with Tyron, who's spoken for us before. Do go to our website, our newly designed website, where you can find all the usual links to be able to register for it. Yeah, Tyron, as I think many of you are probably aware if you've attended those webinars before, is very engaging, very charismatic, and very, a really interesting guy to listen to. How are we doing, Jin?
Another question, quite a few questions like this. Can you only pull LinkedIn connections with email addresses to HubSpot?
Nope, you can bring in connections. You can bring in connections that don't have email addresses. So if I just very quickly, let's find where it's gone. That one, there we go. So you can see here, if I go to my contacts here within HubSpot, now you can see here on the right hand side, I won't show the email addresses for privacy purposes, but you can see here I've got some contacts here who don't have email addresses. They don't have visible email addresses within LinkedIn. So as you can see here, they've still been brought in. Because Dux Soup uses the ID as the unique identifier, then we can bring in those people even though they've not got an email address visible. So yeah, you can bring in contacts that don't have email addresses without any issues, as you can see here.
Thank you.
No problem.
Another question, do you need a paid HubSpot account?
Oh, that's a really good question. No, you don't. I should have mentioned that earlier. That was my bad. You can run this perfectly well on the free version of HubSpot. My account is on the free version, so as you can see, you can run this perfectly well on the free version of HubSpot. Yeah, just need to select all the options, install the connector, and away you go. Just to show you where the let's have a look. Let's go to my settings a second. Over here on the left-hand side, you see here under connected apps, you can see here exactly. I've got both Integromat and Zapier connected as well, but here I've got Dux Soup, and you can see here you can uninstall it from here if you want to, from within the app marketplace. You can also contact our support team, and you see all our documentation from these locations as well. So no, free HubSpot account is sufficient for this to be enabled and to work.
Thank you.
Good question, and I should have mentioned that earlier. Anything else, Jin?
I'm still having a look. Sorry, there's quite a few questions, but they are repeating themselves. So give me 2 seconds again.
They're all rushing in now, are they? Excellent. Keeping you on your toes.
So quite a few customers are asking if Dux Soup will keep on adding same contact if you visit it multiple times.
So basically what it will do, it'll do a lookup, and if there's any updates to apply, then the contact information will be updated. So if, for example, you've got somebody in your HubSpot environment who's a second-degree connection and they become a first-degree connection, it will basically just update their details accordingly, and if there's any new data, then that will just get overwritten, will overwrite the old data. It will do a check against the ID of the person, the LinkedIn ID, so you shouldn't see duplicates appearing. It won't just create a new person every time you visit a profile. It will just update the existing data with the latest information.
Thank you. Another question. If you send a connection request via HubSpot, does it attach to a specific campaign? In other words, if they connect, will they get follow-up emails from a campaign?
At the moment, it will just queue up the connection request. Very shortly, we will be able to also, let me just put up the screen again. Let's go back to my contacts. And let's just take this chap here. What will be coming shortly is on the right-hand side here, where you've got send message update HubSpot or send connection request. Here, you will also very shortly be getting the enroll button. So the enrollment activity will be available as a remote control action. Maybe that's the technical way of explaining it, but essentially you'll have the option here in the right-hand side to enroll them into your chosen campaign in the future. So that's coming very, very shortly. And that will also be present within the Pipedrive environment as well, I should add, as well as, yeah, it's already in the remote control test environment, but it will also be added to the Zapier and Integromat integrations. So as a remote control command, yeah, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but as a remote control command, the enroll activity will be available as well. Okay.
Thank you. Quite a few questions. I don't know if people have missed this or not, or you didn't say that. I think you did. Some customers asking, is it possible to create new CRM contacts, or is it just updating existing contacts?
Oh no, you'll be creating new contacts as I demoed earlier. Let's just go back to here. So as I did earlier, you'll see here when I was doing some auto visits to people. So you can see here from 5:15, from 17:15 this afternoon, I've carried out 6 visits to people here. These are all new contacts within my CRM that I've added just by carrying out auto visits within LinkedIn. So if we just go back here for a second, so here was create and update contacts from connected profiles. Yeah, you do have the other options there as well, but that's, I think, probably going to be the most commonly used one. So connected means they're already a first-degree connection. If I now just go and visit another first-degree connection, let's find someone just to visit. There we go. Let's just visit this person here. And once Dux Soup's got that information, what we should see in a second is we should see that individual's details appearing within. Oh no, I turned it off, didn't I? Ah, did I turn it off? No, it's still enabled. Well, it should appear in here. There we go. He's just appeared there. So that's another new contact that's just appeared in my CRM because I visited him in LinkedIn, and because his details, because I had the integration enabled, and because I carried out a visit to him, so his information has now been brought across into the CRM. And you can see exactly when it was updated. Of course, you can change your views here as well. You know, you can play around with all of that. But if I now was to click on his information, I could see more extensive details about him. Okay.
Thank you. Another quick question. What if they already have an email address in HubSpot and LinkedIn one is different? Will Dux Soup add a second email, or it will override the first one?
I think what will happen is it will probably create what will look like a duplicate record, because it'll be a different email address, and then you'll need to merge the data. I believe that's what will happen, because yeah, if there's a difference in email addresses, then I think it would just create what will look like, yeah, you see the duplicate data very occasionally with CRMs. And then because, yes, you have the different LinkedIn fields and a different email address field, you'll then need to choose which data you want to merge. You'll see them as 2 separate lines, and then, yeah, you can merge that data or choose to have one override the other.
Thank you. And maybe some of the users have missed this. HubSpot integration requires Dux Soup Turbo.
That's correct, yes. HubSpot, all of our integrations, so that's with Integromat, with Zapier, with Pipedrive, and with HubSpot, Dux Soup Turbo is required. That's so you have access to the API. And also, you know, as well as that, you also have the automated follow-ups and campaigns activities made available if you have Dux Soup Turbo. If you contact support, or if you want to try out Turbo, then yeah, there's a 1-week no obligation trial available. If you sign up for Dux Soup Turbo, you can have a free trial for 1 week and decide whether or not you like it, whether it's suitable for you. And yeah, Turbo is required from a Dux Soup perspective. From a HubSpot perspective, you can use the free version from there. Of course, it also works with the paid version of HubSpot, I should say. So yeah, and with Pipedrive, any paid version of Pipedrive works with the integration. Okay.
Thank you. And the completely last one, the last question would be, can you repeat the actions I can do from HubSpot to LinkedIn?
Of course, absolutely. So from within HubSpot, if we go to just a connection that you've got within HubSpot, there are a couple of things that you can do. So first of all, within the integrations, you can see here whether or not you've had any conversations. Oh no, I've not got any conversations with this person. Let's go back to somebody who I've had a conversation with. That'll be a better example, wouldn't it? Let's take this person here as an example. There we go. So here, first of all, just within the timeline, your activity timeline, under your filter activity, you've got the integrations here that you enable that there to make sure that you see from the Dux Soup integration your message. Oh, and that takes you directly to the message. I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, you can see here exactly how you have conversed with them within LinkedIn. And then over here on the right-hand side, the activities that you can trigger from within HubSpot. You can send a connection request if they're not a first degree connection. Of course, if they're not a first degree connection, it's impossible to send them a connection request. It would trigger an auto visit to them, but it wouldn't then complete the invite activity. So you can that, and you can type in your connection request message as per usual, adhering to those same 300 character limits as you would as normal within LinkedIn. You can create an auto visit to that person. So you can just say, yep, I want to update their details, and that would trigger an auto visit to there you are. I've just queued a profile visit, and that would then update this person's individual data accordingly. Or I can also send a message to that person from here within HubSpot. And similarly, with all messaging, I can also use the markers that we use within Dux Soup. There we go. You can just send a direct message to that individual. If I now double check to make sure I've not got the remote control on, there we go. Let's turn that off a second. If I now just said OK there, that will now queue a message, and I can now have a look and see that message, how that looks in my queued activity. There we are. I can see there's my message that I queued up there. Type your message here. Now I won't execute that because I don't want to send him that message, but that's how you can do that from within HubSpot using these items here on the right hand side. Linked in there, you see here, powered by Dux Soup. That's part of the integration. Send a message, update their details, or indeed send a connection request. And shortly, you'll see here also enroll in a campaign, and you'll be able to enroll people from within a campaign as well. And that's going to be coming soon. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, let's just very quickly. 2 weeks time, Tyron's on the stage. Myself and Jim will be here as always. Technical and booster calls, useful links. It just leaves for me to say thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us, and speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you later.